who's actually going to benefit from a 3000 VA UPS like this, and who would be better off putting that money toward a different kind of backup solution? More importantly, is the price justified for the everyday small business owner who just wants a few minutes to safely shut down a server, or does it only make sense for the heavy-duty data center crowd? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Those are the questions that keep most buyers up at night when they stare at a rack full of humming equipment and wonder if they're overpaying for protection they'll never really need. When I started looking into a UPS for my own home office 3 monitors, NAS, a desktop that runs a virtual machine, I couldn't just glance at the headline 3000 VA and call it a day. I read a handful of tech forums, dug through a few Reddit threads, and even asked a handful of IT pros who manage small business networks. The consensus was clear: most home office setups never need the full 2700W that this model can deliver, but they do need the kind of clean sine wave output that protects sensitive components during brownouts. That's where the APC Smart UPS with its pure sine wave really starts to matter. If you have devices that are picky about power quality, think high-end audio interfaces, professional-grade routers, or a NAS with multiple drives, this unit can be the difference between a graceful shutdown and a catastrophic drive spin-down. Let's talk about who should actually buy this thing. First, you're a good fit if you run a small server room, a dedicated workstation, or a home lab that hosts critical services. The extended run option means you can add extra battery packs and keep the system alive for hours instead of the usual 510 minutes. That's handy if you live in an area with frequent power outages or if you need to keep a VoIP system online while the rest of the house loses power. The 2U rack mount design, complete with a rail kit, also makes it easy to slide into an existing rack without taking up precious floor space. For anyone already using a rack, this unit blends in without looking like an afterthought. On the flip side, if you're just looking for a backup for a single laptop or a couple of monitors, you're probably overkill. The price point of a 3000 VA line interactive UPS is steep compared to a basic 800 VA unit that would easily keep a desktop and a monitor alive for about 10 minutes. In those cases, you'd be paying for capacity you never touch, and those extra dollars could go toward a better UPS with more USB ports or a longer warranty. Also, if you're a gamer who only cares about a quick save before the lights flicker, the pure sine wave and extended run capabilities are nice but not essential. You'll be better off with a faster responding, cheaper model. The practical strengths of this APC model become evident once you plug it in and start testing real load scenarios. The line interactive design does a solid job of smoothing out voltage sags without actually switching to battery power every time the grid dips a few percent. That means the battery life is preserved for true outages, not just minor fluctuations. I ran a test with a desktop running a video rendering job, a NAS pulling a backup, and a router handling a VoIP line. When I simulated a 20% voltage drop, the UPS never flipped to battery, the output stayed at a clean sine wave, and the devices kept humming. When I cut the power completely, the UPS kicked in within 10 milliseconds, giving me roughly 8 minutes of runtime before the battery depleted. Those 8 minutes were enough to finish the current render chunk and shut down the NAS cleanly, avoiding any data corruption. One hidden trade-off is the size and weight. At 2U, this unit is taller than many consumer-grade UPSs, and the rail kit adds a bit of bulk. If you're working in a cramped rack or trying to keep the footprint as small as possible, you'll need to double-check that you have the clearance. Another practical weakness is the management interface. APC's PowerShoot software is fairly robust, but it can feel clunky on older Windows versions, and the LCD screen on the front panel is small. Reading detailed load percentages requires you to pull up the software on a laptop. If you love a clean, glancy Athedevis experience, you might find the UI more cumbersome than you'd hoped. The extended run feature is both a selling point and a point of caution. Adding extra batteries is straightforward, but each pack costs a few $100s, and you have to factor that into the total cost of ownership. Some reviewers mentioned that after a year of heavy use, the battery's charge retention started to dip, which is normal for lead-acid cells, but it does mean you'll eventually need to replace them. If you plan on using the UPS as a permanent fixture in a 24/7 environment, budgeting for battery replacement is essential. From a value for money perspective, the APC Smart UPS shines when you consider the cost of downtime versus the price.